This is the MMA Brief Podcast, recapping the world of mixed martial arts every single week, with your host, Brandon Johansson.
Welcome back to the MMA Brief, episode 51, recapping UFC Fight Night 123 from Fresno, California, headlined by Brian Ortega and Cub Swanson. Barn burner ended up winning the fight of the night, but let's start with the fight before that really impressed me. Marlon Moraes, coming up from World Series of Fighting, their former champion, knocked Aljamain Sterling dead with what it looked like an attempted kick, but the knee landed flush on Aljamain's chin, put him out. Very stiff. It was disconcerting. I was worried as an Aljamain Sterling fan because it was such a brutal knockout. Contender for knockout of the year for Marlon Moraes. And in the main event, Cub Swanson versus Brian Ortega. Ortega had a very tight choke in the first round. Saved by the bell was Cub Swanson. Second round, Cub's boxing and overall striking looked very good, but got caught in a very deep guillotine choke that Brian Ortega readjusted several times. He even pushed off the cage multiple times. Really sunk it up. The Henner Gracie product looked phenomenal. He looks like a specialist. Some people are kind of comparing him to Damian Maia at this point. It's very early, but point is, it was a phenomenal win for the number 6 featherweight, upsetting Cub Swanson, who was on his last fight of his UFC contract, trying to go out on a high note, tempt other organizations, hopefully, hey, this is what I'm worth, and the UFC has to counter whatever the case may be. He kind of lost a little leverage by losing that fight. Huge win for Brian Ortega, and now people are talking about, does he deserve a title shot? Should he fight Frankie Edgar for a title shot? We don't know. What I do know is Max Holloway is an absolute beast and 145-pound champion. Brian Ortega looks slick as shit. Frankie Edgar is another formidable foe. Do you want to burn both contenders in one fight by pairing Ortega versus Edgar? I don't think so. I say you feed Frankie to Holloway because that was the original matchup at UFC 218 in Detroit before Frankie got injured. Get him back in that title shot once he's healthy. And if Holloway beats Edgar, then you have Ortega in the wings, or you give him another tough fight. You do whatever you want at this point. The UFC has been consistently entertaining week after week to close this year out. And the next card is really one that has a lot of big fights on it this weekend. Starting at the Fight Pass prelims. A welterweight showdown that really caught my attention. The second fight of the night. Jordan Meehan versus Eric Silva. I mean, a couple years ago, you could have booked this as in, a Fight Pass prelim, a FS1, whatever the network is, feature bout before you go to pay-per-view. I mean, these are two really, really good fighters. Had some ups and downs. I can't wait for that contest. I think it's going to be violent as hell. Either way it goes, both are very skilled welterweights, and it's on that Fight Pass prelims, which, if I'm reading the UFC website correctly, it looks like everything starts early this week if you're on the East Coast. Fight Pass seems to start at 4 o'clock. FS1 prelims start at 5 o'clock. And the Fox main card, okay, we're on Fox. That's the problem. Problem solved. 8 o'clock start time for the main card. I'm going to miss that for sure. I'll have to DVR it. Unbelievable. Early start card. But let's go through the fights. It's a very good card. John McDessie versus Abel Trujillo. Second fight on the FS1 prelims. Tim Elliott versus a guy. Doesn't matter. It's a Tim Elliott fight. You know it's going to be good. Chad Laprice versus Galor Bafando. Oh, Galor Bafando, very amazing striker, making his way to UFC, but made his UFC debut by whipping some dude on his fucking head. It was insane. I have it on the MMA brief page. Go back a little bit, Facebook. Look it up. He whips the dude right on his fucking temple. Conor McGregor's teammate, in fact, Charlie Ward. The point is, Galor Bafando making his second UFC appearance against Chad Laprice, a very formidable opponent in Canada. Chad Laprice, I mean, doesn't that sound French-Canadian to you? We also got, in the FS1 feature bout, Jan Blachowicz versus Jared Cannonier. Should be a good one in the 205-pound division. Moving over to the Fox main card, first fight, Glover Teixeira versus Misha Serkinov. And that one's bound to entertain. You got two really good light heavyweight matchups back-to-back, prelims and then the main card. It's really good matchmaking. Someone's got to emerge into somewhat of an exciting contender out of that. You know, 4 fighters, the 2 matchups. Moving to the next fight on the Fox main card, Platinum Mike Perry versus, I don't want to fuck this up. Yep, of course, Santiago Ponzinibbio, who had that huge knockout earlier in the year against Gunnar Nelson. And Mike Perry has looked like one of the most vicious competitors in all of UFC history. 11-1. Every win that he has been by stoppage. I mean, he doesn't disappoint. I saw him in Nashville earlier this year. He hit Jake Ellenberger with an elbow. I thought Jake might be dead. But of course, this is mixed martial arts. There's doctors there. And it was no big deal, but it was a vicious elbow. And even in April, it was a contender already for knockout of the year. And I think it might still hold up. We've seen some great ones recently, though. Bear with me. I'm sick this week. In the co-main event of the Fox main card, Ricardo Lamas takes on Team Alpha Male's Josh Emmett. Emmett is always a game opponent, but this is a huge step up in competition against Ricardo Lamas, who is one of the very best 145-pound fighters out there. His resume speaks for itself. He has some tough losses, but only against the very best in that division. Never slips up. I would expect the same from him. It's going to be an entertaining contest because Josh Emmett is very game as well. And of course, in the main event, there's a title shot on the line when Robbie Lawler, the former welterweight champion of the world, takes on the former 155-pound champion, Rafael dos Anjos. Of course, now made a new home at 170 pounds as RDA. And people are saying title implications are on the line. Whoever wins this fight, Robbie could get a shot back at his belt that he lost against Tyron Woodley, the champion, by devastating knockout. But he could get a rematch and try to reclaim his title with a win over RDA. And RDA can come in, basically get a couple wins in a new division, and then get a title shot. I would like to see the way this matchup plays out. It's going to be a very entertaining end of the year. I mean, after this card, we have Holly Holm versus Cyborg in the main event to end the year 2017. It's going to be a very good end of the year. I guarantee it. The cards have all been good. And I'm going to keep watching. Thank you for watching. Come back next week, episode 52. We're going to recap Rafael dos Anjos versus Robbie Lawler. It's going to be insane. It's going to be on Fox. It's going to be early, but it'll still be insane. So don't miss it. Peace.